Welcome everyone, thanks for tuning into this week's video. This week I'm turning a Purpleheart vase. This Purpleheart blank I picked up at Woodcraft, and it's been a while since I've used some Purpleheart, so I'm gonna test it out here. So here I mark center on both sides, and I'm drilling for the worm screw right here. If you haven't turned Purpleheart, it is very dense. So I have it on the lathe with the woodworm screw and the tailstock pulled up here, starting with the bowl gouge to knock down the sides, the corners. Going slow, I'm at about 500 RPMs here. Switch to the Easy Wood Tools rounded over negative rake cutter here, and starting to make the tenon. Switching now to the Robert Sorby diamond parting tool to finalize the shape of the tenon. I have the tenon now in the 4-jaw chuck and using the bowl gouge to start the shaping process of shaping the vase. So the RPMs at this point is up to about 1100. Here I'm using the Easy Wood Tools negative rake again, and now back to the bowl gouge. I switch back and forth between the two to try to get the best cut. The Padauk, as I mentioned, is very dense, and I stopped to sharpen the bowl gouge probably 4 times throughout turning this vase. Could have stopped more, but the negative rake helped too. So the shape I'm going for here with the vase is just a very simple shape where it's thin or narrower at the bottom. It becomes a little wider, and then as you go up, it narrows a bit. Nothing too fancy. That's just the shape that I tend to like for a vase. Sanding here, some power sanding. I sand it from 80 grit all the way up to 400 grit, and I go back and forth between power sanding and some hand sanding as well. Here I'm using the skew chisel to try to finalize the surface cut. Even though I already sanded, I decided to try the skew chisel. I hadn't used this particular tool on this project yet, and I wanted to refine the shape just a little bit more. Using some denatured alcohol to clean the surface, and getting a look at that Purpleheart and seeing how pretty it is. Here I'm using this sanding sealer. It's a mixture of sanding sealer and denatured alcohol, 70% sealer and 30% denatured alcohol. And I let this dry, and then I move forward with the Axe abrasive paste and polishing paste. Here's the Axe abrasive paste. There is a link in the video description on how to get the Axe paste. And I use it in almost every one of my projects, if you've watched any of my other videos. And if you haven't tried Axe paste yet, you really should. If you're turning anything or woodworking, it is a really great product at a great price. Using a Forstner bit in the drill truck with a extender as well to start the hollowing process on the vase. And you can see the smoke. Once again, the Purpleheart is extremely dense, and I advanced the Forstner bit and came back out numerous times, just going slow to not get it stuck, number one. Number two, to get a good cut and to get as deep as I needed to go. Definitely needed the extender here. A regular Forstner bit in the drill truck wouldn't have been deep enough. Getting some of the debris, dust out, shavings out here. Normally I would have used my vacuum, but my vacuum wasn't working at the moment. I had to go get a part for it. Also using the diamond parting tool that you saw me there with a second ago as a measure to measure the depth, which I didn't show, but I did use that. So hand tools now to continue the hollowing process. The Forstner bit did a really good job, so there wasn't a whole lot of work to do here. Just getting it to the thickness or thinness, if you will, that I wanted. Using the Easy Wood Tools #1 hollower here. I use this tool, the bowl gouge, Carter and Son bowl gouge, and the negative rake Easy Wood tool. All of those plus the Forstner bit to hollow this. Here, if you notice, I am using the bowl gouge. I also have the lathe in reverse. I'm not sure if anyone noticed this. Sometimes I do this when it's hard to reach down around. If you put the lathe in reverse and use the tool on the opposite side that you normally would, you can get a good cut as well. Here I'm using sandpaper that's attached to a dowel and sanding the inside with this process. Same grits from 80 grit to 400 grit. So what's the tape for? Yeah, I thought I was getting close to done with this project, and I decided on a design change. I'm putting the tape around and drawing some circle-ish shapes on the tape because I'm going to be using a dremel tool and drilling out some holes all the way through the vase thickness here. And as you'll see when we get going here with the dremel, how the design will look. Using the tape just to get a better cut so there's not as much splintering. I used a few different attachments on the Dremel. This one started to smoke a little bit, and it wasn't the best attachment, so I switch here in a minute, as you'll see. So not going for perfect circles here, just going for really odd shapes, abstract shapes. And the circles that I drew, or the shapes that I drew, are really just a guide. I didn't drill those out or carve those out exactly, just for really spacing purposes. And now for the big reveal. Not really, kind of just kidding there. Taking the tape off, it looks terrible, but I do clean it up with the Dremel and with sandpaper. I did not film all of the sanding because it was quite tedious and long, but I'm going to be using the Dremel here. You can see me turning it on and really just refining those shapes with the Dremel tool. I end up sanding the whole thing again, even though I had finished the outside. I needed to sand where I had drilled the holes, so I decided to make it as uniform as possible. I should sand the whole thing back and start the finishing process over. Using sandpaper to get through the holes. What I don't film here is this process of rolling up the sandpaper was not really working as well as I wanted it to, so made a trip to my friendly Rockler store and got some sanding sticks that were more appropriate for this type of job. So thank you, friendly Rockler staff, for helping. Denatured alcohol once again to clean the surface before applying the sanding sealer. Another design change on the fly. Here I'm using a pencil to mark where I want to put a slight recess in line. I used the diamond parting tool to make a small little recess or accent here. And now using a sanding twig thing to darken that up and sand the recess. Cleaning it up with some 400 grit. and again with the sanding sealer. Thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do consider subscribing. It's free, and there's a new video every week. I would love to share them with you. Leave a comment and let me know what you think. A couple design changes on the fly here that were not intended when I bought this blank or started this project. I'm sure I'm not the only one that does that, but I feel like I do it almost every time. So let me know what you think. Any good? Not good? Thumbs up, thumbs down? Leave me a comment and let me know. Thanks again for watching. I really appreciate it. And until next week, peace out.